Hi, it's time for Good Energy, and I'm Dr. Julie. And today we're on day 19, hearing. Antonio Banderas, your Netflix account, and mindfulness, how they all go together. All right, so if you haven't guessed, your prop for the day is your Netflix account. Okay? You're going to wonder why, but that's what we're going to get to in a second. All right, let's get into our breathing. Okay, take a deep breath in and release. Again, deep breath in, get in from the bottom of those ribs, from the back of those ribs, all the way up to the top. Deep breath in and release. All right, think about your gunk. Figure out where you got it hiding in your body on the next breath. Is it down in your toes? Is it hanging out in your belly? Is it hanging out in your head? Take a deep breath in and release. All right. So I'm feeling a little bit on my temples. Been waking up with a little bit of a headache lately. So we'll see what we can do. All right. So today is about hearing. And the sense of hearing, this is actually my past life. I actually have a dissertation published on language acquisition, and particularly auditory perception, which is how do you figure out where words are in another language if you have never heard it before. And as an auditory perception, as a language acquisition person, I know that the spaces between words, if you actually see the speech stream written out, actually don't show up in between each word. They actually show up anywhere in a word. They actually can show up in between a word depending upon how each word is spoken. And in order to acquire a language, a child, an adult, needs to listen to that language over and over again to figure out where the stops and starts are, because they have nothing to do with where the gaps in the speech stream exist. So this gets us to Antonio Banderas and one of my favorite dumb movies of all times, The 13th Warrior. And in The 13th Warrior, Antonio Banderas is brought, I think he is forced out of his country because he was in love with the prince's daughter, and he was forced up to Norway. And he was forced up there to hang out with the Vikings because they just needed somebody out there. And when he got there, he didn't speak a lick of whatever Scandinavian language they were speaking, and I believe it was Norwegian. And he spent the time while he was with them, while he was traveling with them, just listening to their speech. And throughout the course of the movie, he starts to figure out what the words are, not because they're talking to him, but because he's listening. He's listening to what the words are. And in the end, he starts speaking, I believe it's Norwegian, he starts speaking Norwegian. And it totally blows their socks off because how could he do this? How could he just listen to the language and figure out what it actually does? Well, honestly, folks, you can listen to any language and figure out what sounds go together. Figuring out what they mean takes a little bit more than Antonio Banderas' character actually does in that movie. So the important thing is that you can actually listen to a foreign language and start to figure out the pattern of the language while you're listening to it. So that gets us to our Netflix account. All right. So if you have been hanging out at home doing some binging, you might notice that there are a bunch of foreign language shows on there. I just happened to get done watching Ragnarok, which is Norwegian. And despite my Scandinavian heritage, Scandinavian-American heritage, I do not speak a lick of Norwegian. And so I'm listening to this as well as reading the subtitles. In the process of listening to the Norwegian, if I were just to have the Norwegian running in the background, I could start picking out the pattern and the rhythm of Norwegian when if I decided to learn it, I would actually be able to learn it better. So how does this relate to mindfulness? Well, if you are stuck at home and you're binging something, why not binge something with a foreign language? Why not binge a foreign language where you can start to learn the patterns of the phrases, the patterns of the sounds, that come in that language so that you actually are getting something out of it. That mindfulness of just kind of being aware of the sounds as well as actually reading the captions are actually a great way of getting you out of your head and back into your body. Clearly, I was very emphasizing that point. So it's a silly thing to do, but it actually goes really well with mindfulness. You can do this with any foreign language. You could pick any foreign language show out of here, read the subtitles, but more importantly, listen to the language. And as you listen to it, you actually become familiar with how the sounds go together. And once you do that, then you can start working on specific words and specific pronunciations within that language because you've already figured out how these sounds go together. All right, so not much of a fun thing today, but something for you to try this weekend, next week, when you're looking for things to do. You can binge a foreign language show and work on just listening to how these foreign languages come across to you and how the sounds go together. All right, so after that little lecture, let's get back into our body. Take a deep breath in and release. All right, I hope you have a good Saturday. Maybe you put some foreign language thing on, and I'll see you tomorrow.